Hey listeners, you're invited to the club. Fighter Club, that is. If you're looking for a way to become a more active part of this movement, consider joining Fighter Club. For as little as $10 a month, you can create a real impact by supporting our efforts to educate and raise awareness on the harms of porn. Plus, by joining, you can get insider info, 30% off all Fight the New Drugs conversation starting gear, access to our secret store, and an exclusive Fighter Club kit sent to you when you sign up. Join Fighter Club today at ftnd.org/FC. That's ftnd.org/FC. See you in the club.
My name is Garrett Johnson, and you're listening to Consider Before Consuming, a podcast by Fight the New Drug. And in case you're new here, Fight the New Drug is a non-religious and non-legislative organization that exists to provide individuals the opportunity to make an informed decision regarding pornography by raising awareness on its harmful effects using only science, facts, and personal accounts. We want these conversations to be educational, uplifting, and hopeful. As we sit down with experts, influencers, activists, and people with personal accounts, we cover a wide variety of topics that may be triggering to some. You can refer to the episode notes for a specific trigger warning. Listener discretion is advised. Today's episode is with Joshua Broome. He's a former performer who made over 1,000 adult films. He was once named the top male performer of the year. He grossed well over $1 million and then decided to leave the industry. During this conversation, we discuss how he ended up in the industry, what it was like performing, why he left, and what he's up to now. With that being said, let's jump into the conversation. We hope you enjoy this episode of Consider Before Consuming.
All right.
Sounds like we're all set up there.
Victory.
Thanks for your patience. Do you want to go by Josh or Joshua?
So it doesn't matter to me. Anytime anyone asks me that, so growing up, my mom was like a huge stickler for that. So if anyone ever asked me that question, I always say Joshua because I would get whacked in the back of the head if I said otherwise. So to honor my mother, I don't think I could say anything other than Joshua.
Okay, awesome. And you don't mind that your name is out there, correct? You don't want this to be anonymous?
So ultimately, like, my hope is that I can have a different conversation than most people have had just because I've had my foot in rooms that some people haven't. And just the reality behind that is, I guess it just provides a really unique opportunity. And I really want to utilize that influence to lead people out of that lifestyle. So that's something that's really important to me. So long answer could be a lot shorter. Yes, using my name is absolutely fine.
Yeah, awesome. I love to hear your intention too. So thanks for sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's crazy. So I randomly, so like about 3 months ago, I just like woke up in the middle of the night and I was like, I think I'm just going to share my story on TikTok. I'm not sure why I decided to do that, but that's what I did. And then I woke up and it had 6 million views.
How did I not know this?
What? Yeah, so like, and I mean, my page is a collection of random stuff and advocating against pornography by using, here's who I was. And the thing about it is, so I didn't realize this. So I was in a meme that was pulled from a pornography movie, and that meme has been shared over 100 million times across all social media platforms. And it started as a Vine, but it's like this thing where like it was just this like horrific movie that was just like so lame, and it was all improv. And it's so funny because like I went to school like initially for theater, and I was passionate about acting and modeling and all that stuff. And like improv is something that, I pride myself on having like good improv ability. And that's just something that allowed me to be successful in that field. And they were like, okay, so we're not sure exactly what you want to say, but she's a lifeguard, you're in a bathtub, like just make it funny. And she runs in, and ultimately she's like, she needs to save me. And she's like, there's shark in the water. And I was like, this isn't a beach, this is a bathtub. And like, that's the meme. And it's been shared like over 100 million times.
Wow. That is wild.
But that's ultimately the reason that I hopped on TikTok, because it was like one of the like top 10 memes of last year. But I guess it's been popular for a long time. Because when I got on there, we're like, oh my gosh, you're that guy. I was like, and I just assumed it was like you knew me from like adult films, but like no, like a lot of people remember like know me from like films, but like everyone that says something about it is that it's that stupid meme. I'm like, whatever, like whatever that will create momentum, I will use it as leverage to get my message across. So.
Is it okay that I'm laughing a little bit?
Oh, it's funny, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, while it's a serious and detrimental thing, it's like it was something I did, and I think that for anyone not to use their past as a learning opportunity and just something to grow from. But yeah, it is what it is, and I think that's pretty funny in certain regards. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like at the same time, like like that industry in my past like causes a ton of heartache and pain like over the past, but it's all my story,
Right. I know that we're jumping ahead here, but I just want to acknowledge that leaving the porn industry can be a very challenging transition, and you've accomplished a lot since leaving the industry. You're raising a family, you have done a lot of personal training, you also have owned gyms.
Yep.
How did you end up in gym ownership after leaving the porn industry?
So I played basketball. Well, I played sports like my whole life, and I dabbled in personal training, and then that was like, to be completely honest, like I kind of looked at my life and I was like, okay, I've been in porn for almost 5+ years. So I've been in porn, I've acted, I've modeled. And I've worked in a few restaurants. So like, other than that, like my resume doesn't exist. So what have I done, or can I do that would be, what could I possibly do to provide myself? Like, okay, I know that I don't want to do any type of soliciting of myself sexually anymore. I know I don't want to do that. But I know that I need to do something. What can I do?
Right.
And personal training was that thing. And I like ultimately like started working for this person, like hired me, and I was like, I'll clean the bathrooms, I'll do whatever, I don't care. I was like, just please give me as many hours as possible. And I put in the work, and I was really fortunate because the leadership of that gym saw potential in me, even though that I did not show integrity in the beginning, because I did not tell them about my past, and it came to the surface, which was a very common theme for me in that period. And they chose to continue to allow me to work there, and they really like came alongside me and just like and loved me, and in spite of my dishonesty, because sometimes not telling the full truth is just as bad as not telling the truth. But anyway, they just kind of held my hand, and like I grew and I grew and I grew, and like I started making a name for myself in regards like as a personal trainer, and started doing really well financially. And then I had the opportunity to take over a gym as far as being a general manager at a facility. And then I worked there for about a year. And then like in that period, I'd met my wife and we got engaged, and we decided to together open a gym. And then we opened another bigger gym. And then in the middle of that, I kind of decided that I wanted to go into ministry, and I left to do my own thing.
Wow.
And here we are now.
What a journey.
Yeah, my life is freaking weird.
It's awesome, man.
Yeah, so I was like, I have to. So I've been writing a book for a year, and I'm done with it. But the issue is, stuff keeps happening to me. I was like, I need to include this. And as I include it, it kind of like messes with the flow of the book, and then I have to like critique other aspects of it, because ultimately my book is about this was my life growing up, kind of like what we're about to talk through. This was my life growing up. This was my time in the adult industry. This was the detriment and the mental and emotional, anguish that was caused by the adult industry. Here are some next step things to do to avoid or get out of pornography or any other addiction or any other substance or any other behavior that you are partaking in, that you are willing to acknowledge that is not good for you and you don't want to do it. So honesty, boundaries, accountability.
That's awesome. Well, can we jump into your experience a little bit, your life story?
Let's
we're gonna
do it, bro.
We're gonna talk about your entire life in about an hour.
Yeah.
So that's not going to be challenging at all.
Yeah, let's do it.
The name of the podcast is Consider Before Consuming, and we try to put forth information that our audience can listen to and consider before consuming pornography.
Right.
And so, like I mentioned earlier, we feel fortunate to be able to have a conversation with you today. Jumping into your experience, we've talked a little bit about your childhood and the dynamics there. What was your first experience like with pornography early on in your life?
Yeah, so I think the first time I probably saw like a movie or a magazine, I was 13 or 14 at my cousin's house, and I remember just seeing it and then just feeling weird about it and not knowing like what was going on with my body. Is this feels wrong, but I like what I see, and that was kind of it for a while, and then I guess my cousin and I again, like, we found a video of, I don't know if it was like his dad's or what, but we found this video and we watched it, and like he was like, you should take it or whatever, and like I took it home with me and I would watch it like here and there, but it's just a weird thing. Like it definitely like intrigued me, but I don't know. But yeah, so 13, 14 was probably the first time that I've seen anything.
Right. Did your porn consumption escalate from when you first saw it to getting the video? Did it escalate from there in regards to like more frequency or longer durations or types of pornography? Yeah, so it, like, with me, it was I craved this. I started like to want to watch it, and then I think one of the things like with consuming pornography, it's all about the high, and you, like, regardless of the substance, whatever you're consuming, you're always going to want more or something stronger or something different, and it being new and unique to me, like, that was the thing I craved. So I didn't want to see the same thing over and over again. So I was like, okay, how can I, obviously I can't, go out and buy something at, 14, 15, whatever. How can I consume this? And then, so I'm gonna kind of share my age on this, but this is still when like dial-up was a thing, and I remember like trying to like download stuff on LimeWire, and it would take like 30, 45 minutes to download a 1 minute video, because like I lived in like the boondocks in South Carolina, and the internet that we had wasn't great. So I remember I would spend forever downloading this thing, and I would start downloading it in the middle of the night so that it would be downloaded by the morning, so I could hide the file so I could look at it like when I got home from school, before like my mom got home. So it was all strategically planned out. Oh yeah.
So, but for me, like, it was the availability the availability on the internet and allowing me to see something new over and over again was the thing that I craved.
And did you notice that pornography was having negative impacts on your life early on, or were you kind of oblivious to those?
I think at that age I was probably oblivious to it, but it did. I think looking back on it, it definitely affected my expectations of like relationships with girls. So just like, this is what I'm watching. So, I'm assuming that, hand holding is supposed to lead to this, supposed to lead to that, and it just like it was a natural proxy of things. It wasn't that wasn't anything that was special or deserving of any kind of extensive commitment to one another. It was just, this makes sense because of what I see. I put this in my mind, and this is just what made sense. And I think for me, the biggest thing that confused me about pornography is that I didn't have anything to reference it, because I did not grow up seeing a man and a woman be intimate. Like I didn't like any interaction,
right?
Because I didn't
not even like non-sexual
right. Yeah, I just
contact.
Just like literal, like human interaction,
yeah.
like interpersonal relationships, like with husband and wife or boyfriend and girlfriend. Like that was just something I wasn't exposed to. Like my grandmother and grandfather were together, but like my grandfather, he had a personal relationship with fishing, and that's what he did every single day, like every single day. Because my mom, so I grew up in my grandparents' home. So my mom had me when she was 16. I've probably been in the same room as my dad 10 times my whole life. And just he fished all the time. Like he was great. He was funny. He's taught me how to fish. Like great man. But just I guess like for me, like they were just at that point in their lives where they were not interested in being like romantic in any way. Like they slept in different bedrooms. They didn't like didn't sit beside each other, and you know what I mean. Like so that would be the only relationship that would have been something for me to glean from or to gain any kind of understanding from. But other than that, like the only other thing that was imprinted on me was the relationship that my mom had with her. Like she got married when I was 7, and that lasted for a few years, and he was very abusive, and he was a drug addict. And like one of the main things I can remember of him, anything I can remember of him, it's like I don't have any good memories about him. So
looking back, do you think that's one of the main reasons you would turn to pornography? Did you feel neglected as a kid, or lonely, or sad?
I didn't. So I never felt neglected or anything to that regard, because my mom was incredible.
Yeah, she sounds amazing based off the work ethic that I heard.
Yeah, and just things like things that I can appreciate as an adult now. Just like I always had J's on my feet. I always had the opportunity to go to different basketball camps. But
that's cool.
While we were at times living in government housing and had food stamps, and somehow like my mom would like work extra hours or like do like work at the farmer's market or like whatever, like somehow some way, like no matter what
a champion.
I would never like I didn't have a luxurious childhood by any means, but I cannot remember ever my mom saying I can't do this because we didn't have enough money. And that's something she very well could have said.
Yeah. That's neat.
But to answer your question, I do think that it kind of opened up a window for like this is a type of intimacy, and this is a type of affirmation that I am kind of like receiving from myself, and it's filling this gap that I have inside of me, that's like I'm longing for something that I don't currently have. So that from me consuming that, all of a sudden I had this desire that I didn't know that I could have, and that was kind of feeding that void that I had.
Did you have anyone to talk to about your porn consumption, or did you feel a need to ever talk to anyone about your porn consumption early on?
No, I mean, I just thought it was something that, like I don't know, like for me, I just thought, I knew, like I saw it as something that was bad, but not something that was something that I needed to talk to people about. So it's like, I know, like for me, like it, because you were supposed to be 18 to watch it or buy it, so it was bad to me because like cigarettes or alcohol, like I'm too young to understand how to consume it, so I'm not supposed to partake in it, but I'm doing it anyway. So it was wrong to me from a legality standpoint. So it felt bad because I felt like I shouldn't be doing it, but I never thought it was something that I needed to talk to anyone about.
Yeah. Did you experience any shame around your consumption?
I mean, at that time, I don't think so. Like, if I did, I mean, I think instinctually, like you're, like especially like as a teenager, like maybe I didn't have the self-awareness to like put this together, but the fact that I would download these videos in the middle of the night and then hide them and then consume them in hiding, like that should have been okay, this is not something that I should be doing, or maybe this is not something that is good for me, just because anything that you need to do in hiding generally is not good for you. So but I guess I just didn't have the maturity or the self-awareness.
And you were, jumping forward, I think you mentioned you were in the porn industry for 5 years. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's a big jump.
Yeah. The reason why I say that is because I was going to ask, at what point did you go from consuming pornography to like imagining like I could do this?
So honestly, that really never crossed my mind. So I went to college. I joined a fraternity. I was like the guy. Like I had this nickname. My Mr. Pants was my nickname because they said like if I walked in the room, girls' pants would fall off. Like ridiculous. But I was just like this womanizing just idiot, and I sought after like the affirmation that I needed for myself, both by girls wanting me and me hooking up with them. That kind of like fed this insecurity / ego type thing. And I started modeling when I was 15, around 14, 15. I had a lot of success in that. And as my career, progressed, in college, I wanted to go into acting, but theater's really hard.
Yeah.
Theater's hard. College in itself is hard. And I was having legitimate success, and I just thought, hey, I feel like I'm just going to, like, honestly, I'm kind of crazy in this way because, like, when I decide to do something, there's, like, nothing can stop me. So I decided one day that I was going to drop out of college, and I was going to move to Los Angeles and become a professional model and actor. And I was having a lot of success, so why not? Like, why couldn't I do that? So at the advice that I not do it for my mom, she because she fought so hard for me to get an education and go to college and whatnot.
Right.
But again, she she always was loving and supportive of me, even though I made a lot of mistakes along the way.
That's cool. It's the definition of a good parent, I think.
Yeah. She continued to fight for me, even when I was fighting against myself. She's amazing. But so I sold some stuff and I moved there, and my expectation was I would be Brad Pitt in 2 weeks. Like I was like, that's honestly like how egotistical and blinded by my pride and my insecurities I was. Like I thought every audition that I went on, I'd become, I got the part or I got the job or whatever. So it's like everything was like in that realm was being handed to me, and I was like, why could I not be successful in that regard? So I move out there and I'm having a little bit of success, and I spent the first several weeks just going on auditions, getting pictures done, doing meeting up with photographers, like doing like this, doing that, and again, very immature. So I didn't think, hey, you need to take that money that you currently have, pay a deposit on an apartment, and get somewhere to live. No, I was staying in a nice hotel and just kept going to these things, and all of a sudden my bank account started to run out, and all of a sudden my card was declined, and I was like, oh gosh, what am I going to do now? And I don't know, like I've always had this just like almost this negligence for like I can't be defeated, or like I felt invincible. So like, so what that I don't have any money or anyone to live? It'll be fine. Like who cares? Mm-hmm. And I was homeless for a little bit, and a guy I'd met like at one of the I don't know if it was at a club or whatever. Like we became friends like on social media, and I just messaged him. I was like, is there any way I can crash at your house? And he was like, sure. And I kind of like, I guess like in a drunken stupor, I was like, dude, I spent all my money. I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, hopefully like I get, because like some of the jobs like you do like with modeling and acting, it's like, it's not like you get like, they don't hand you money at the end of the day,
Right.
It's sometimes it's weeks before you get paid.
Right.
So I had money on the way, but like nothing in my pocket. So I was just like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And he's like, dude, just like, you can crash here. I work part-time at this bar. That's a steakhouse also. Like if you want to like, I could get you a job pretty easily. And I go, and the place is called Saddle Ranch. And if you live in Hollywood, like where this place is, because it is the place where if you're not 21, you can get into and you can party, because the caveat is if you order food, you can get in. So anywhere else, you got to be 21 to get in. But this place, if you're willing to order some wings or whatever, all of a sudden you can get a table, and if you get a table, you just cash out your check and then stay, and all of a sudden you're in a bar.
Right.
So it was really, really popular place. But anyway, he got me a job there, and I started working there. And like day one, started making really good money, like between $300 to $500 a night in tips, and it's like, this is great, and like this is gonna like allow me to continue to do what I want to do. And in the middle of that process, I was in a circle of friends where like a lot of people were really successful, and no matter what success I achieved along the way, I always like didn't feel like I was good enough. And I think a really good lesson to take away from is like, if you compare your success to those around you, you will never appreciate your success or feel successful, because you don't have what you see, and you can't even appreciate what you do have. So that was kind of my deal. It's like I was doing okay. Actually, I was doing pretty well, probably compared to some people, but I wasn't doing as well as the friends in my circle. So I was like, I was always like looking to do something else, or like, how could I get, more opportunities? How can I be better? How can I make more money? How can I like do cooler stuff? Like, I want what everybody else has. And just, I think like that comes from being really insecure. But long story short, there was a group of girls that were sitting at a table, and I was waiting on them. And they were like, hey, have you ever thought about being an actor? I was like, well, actually, I am an actor. They were like, no, adult acting, adult films. I was like, I don't know how old you think I am, but I'm over 18. And they're like, no, dummy. We're talking about pornography. I was like, what? They're like, what do you mean? They're like, we do porn. I'm like, oh, cool. So what are you saying? She's like, you should do porn. I was like, right. Yeah, that makes sense. They're like, no, seriously, you should come meet our agent. And I was like, sure, I'll come meet your agent, whatever. And I assumed, I was like, because like really, like I just wanted to hook up with those girls. So it's like, whatever, whatever you say, sure. And they were like, no, like come meet our agent. And I assumed that I was going to meet this person that was like in a Motel 6, like in a Roach Motel, like, I don't know. Like, I just had this like perception like that porn was dirty. So it like this whole this process was going to be weird. And I go to Studio City, which is like a suburb of Hollywood. It's like north of Hollywood. And I get to this place kind of like adjacent from Universal Studios, and it's like this giant like business center, and we go into this like private parking lot, and it has like Porsches and Ferraris and Beamers everywhere, and we go into this private elevator, and we go up this elevator, and then we get out, and then we walk down this hallway, and at the end of this hallway there's this like giant office, and we open the door, and there's this huge desk, and behind this desk is this bald English guy in this like the nicest 3-piece suit that, it was like Gucci or something, I don't know, but and just like so intimidated, and just like, what is going on? Like, this is your agent? And he ultimately told me, hey, I'll cut right to the chase. There's not a lot of good-looking guys in the industry, and the industry is turning to bigger films, and those bigger films require the ability to act and portray, people, to do improv, to understand how to read a script, to do all this stuff. From my understanding, you have this ability to do that. If that is true, between that and you being an attractive guy, you'll be very successful. And I think you can be as successful as you want to be if you can do the job. So if you're interested, I would like to get you a scene to do. And then if it goes well, I would like to talk about representing you. And I was like, what? A scene? What is all this? And then I get home, and then he calls me, and he's like, so if you want to continue to pursue this, I need you to go and get there was this place that you would go and get a full panel STD and AIDS test, and to keep the data consistent. Everyone went to the same place. So I went there and got my blood drawn and peed in a cup, and it was supposed to come back the next morning, and it did not. And that was one of many, many times that there was an opportunity for me to not do the dumb thing that I was going to do, but my persistence prevailed, and the next day it came back, and they were really insistent on me being the person that did this scene, and I showed up on set with my test, and they're like, the way it's going to go is, you're going to come to this room and, just get to it, and we'll kind of guide you as we go. And I was like, what's happening? And I felt this sick feeling in my stomach. Like, it was like excitement, but no, like I knew clearly that this was a bad decision.
Interesting.
I just felt like it was one of those things that, like, once I did it, it was either going to go one way or the other. I was going to do it. It was going to go terrible, and I was going to feel humiliated, or it was going to go well, and it was going to change my life. And the other happened. So it went really well, and it changed my life. So I did that one film. I signed a contract with that agent, and that agent just happened to be, he only represented a handful of guys, and it was the biggest industry. It was the biggest agency in the United States, and one film turned into, I did, I think, 150 that first year, and then every year after that I did well over 200. And then, after 5 years, I'd been nominated for, best male porn star, and I've won it one time and won all these awards and traveled all over the world. And I'd done 1,000 movies, and I was all over Showtime and HBO, and there were sex shops that I had, my pictures were all over toys and movies and covers of things and on billboards in Vegas and all this stuff. And all of a sudden I'd somehow become one of the top 5 male porn stars in the world.
You said that before that first scene, you knew that it was a poor decision?
Yeah, I mean, just...
Did that feeling go away after the first scene, or did you have that continuous throughout the 5 years?
So I would say probably that first year, it slowly, the guilt and the nerves and the all the other feelings that went along with it kind of went away. And the more numb I came to what it was, the less I felt conflicted by it. So, eventually, whether it was, regardless of what kind of sex act it was just a transaction to me. A handshake was sometimes more personal than having sex.
That makes sense.
Because, like, the thing about a handshake is, like, both people have to willingly participate, and in that, like there were definitely times where, like, there were girls that they were willing to be there, but you could tell, like, mentally and emotionally they were checked out, if that made sense.
Yeah.
Like, they put on the face, they said the words, they did the thing, but you could just feel, like, you could see in their eyes and on their face, like in between scenes, that, like, I'm willing to be here, I know what I'm doing, but I wish I was somewhere else.
How did you cope with that? All the negativity and these emotions that have negative impacts.
Like, for a guy, for a male performer in the industry, like, the whole day is riding on you. So, like, if you don't perform, right? If you don't do the job that you're there to do, it's all on you, because the girl's going to get paid no matter what. The location that was rented is going to, that's going to get paid no matter what. The crew that is there working is going to get paid no matter what. So there's a camera crew, there's sound, there's you're renting a home, or you're renting studio time. The girl is going to get paid. If you're shooting, if you're utilizing, like, natural light, there's only so much daylight. There's, everything's happening per day. So, like, there's so much pressure on you to perform. So like for me, like from a like I'm really into like Myers-Briggs and like personality types and things like that. So just like for me, like my number one strength is like achiever, and for me, it feeds off my insecurity that I wasn't enough, because like if I didn't value myself, an achievement could kind of cover up my insecurity. So for me, it was like I needed to do a good job. So like for me, it's like obviously it was my financial livelihood, but also my reputation as like one of the top guys and all. And then thirdly, like people were depending on me to get the job done so everyone could reap the benefits. So for me, it was an act that I was like, you're trusting me to do this thing. So it really evolved. Like it was so not emotional in any regard. So for me, it was just like, it just became, I'm going to work, whether I was, painting a picture or whatever else. It was just a task that was meant to be completed. So I did it the best I could. And that's what it became in my mind. And towards the end, like in the moment, I completely emotionally detached. But I would always, there would always be repercussions from that, because emotions are real. Intimacy is real. So I would always feel the weight of that later that day, or when I would leave, or when I would go home and shower, or whatever. But in the moment, I was there to complete a task, and that was really all I was thinking about.
I kind of have two questions based off the things you said. One, they're not really related, but the first one was, how did you deal with that weight as you would go home and those emotions settled? How did you cope with that, the weight of that? And then the other question I had is unrelated. It's, did you ever experience any force, fraud, or coercion while you were in the industry? So I guess start off with, if you could, talk to a little bit about how you coped with the weight of those emotions.
Yeah, so when I first got in the industry, like especially when I started to become very popular, and like I had a publicist and all this stuff. I was being paid to show up at parties, and like I would get a few grand just to show up and like get a table at a bar or a club or whatever. Like they'd fly me to Vegas and get a table, and like, all this dude's here, come hang out with him, pay whatever, you can sit like in the vicinity of him. And but like other than that, like I've always kind of been a recluse in a certain degree, and I think because I felt rejected in some regards, like growing up, primarily like referring to my dad, like I kind of felt rejected by that. I kind of felt this I believe that when I was by myself, it was kind of like, I don't know, I wanted to be by myself. And that was just kind of like, I felt safe in that way, because if I was by myself, no one could reject me. And that really escalated. Like the deeper I got in the industry, my coping mechanism was to isolate myself from everyone and everything. And while a lot of people, I get asked a lot of questions about drugs and things like that. And like, I never really partied unless I was being paid to party. So, and I didn't really have close friends because I didn't do anything. So I worked out, I tanned, I got takeout, and that was what I did. I played video games. Like I didn't interact with a lot of people. So the deeper I got into the industry, the more I isolated myself from people, because I didn't feel like I had anything genuinely to offer, because like I didn't want to party, I didn't want to be around people. And I think it's twofold, because on a personal level, I felt used, so I felt useless. I felt dirty, so I thought that was, you know, how other people would perceive me. And then in addition to that, there's a certain level of exertion that you have emotionally, and it just leaves you not wanting to be around people. So like, I mean, I kind of compare it. So I love donuts more than anything in the world. I just feel like, but what would be terrible is if I ever worked at Krispy Kreme and I was around it all the time, the last thing I would want is to eat a donut. So it's like, you know, there's a light, you know, on my crotch. There's 4 cameras. There's 30 people staring at me, you know, naked all day long. And then I'm having, you know, I'm having sex with these people. Like, you know, I'm working 25, sometimes 30 times a month. And I'm doing this, you know, pretty much on command. You know, it's like I have gotten myself to be able to sexually perform like I'm a robot. And that was why I was valuable. But all of that had a cost emotionally. So I didn't want to be around people because I didn't feel like I had any value on a personal basis, but also I had expended my desire for just being around people. Like, because does that make sense? Like,
yeah.
I exerted myself on a intimate level so much that the last thing I wanted was to be around people. And that just grew. It grew more and more primarily because of how I viewed myself. Like, like the longer I was in the industry, because I would always want to be like, if I could been anything in the world, like growing up, it would have been a professional athlete or a professional athlete's coach. Like, just because I didn't really have like a lot of like fatherly like role models growing up, but like there was just something about like my basketball coach just like really believed in me and just like spoke life into me and just like told me I had value, and just like,
that's awesome.
Kind of like and just like that was something that I really appreciated. So like I was never like really led as a man, so like I had a desire to lead people, and that was kind of that was always like my thing. Like, whatever I didn't have, I wanted to be able to reciprocate the thing that I hadn't experienced. So like, so as weird as it sounds, like the goal, like my biggest goal, like what is the thing that you want to do before you die? And I would always say, like, not necessarily have a family or be married or whatever. It was always like, I just want to be a dad. Like, I just thought like the idea of being a dad would be so amazing, just because I never got to experience it. And then just the thought of like being a dad and just giving the thing that I never received would just be so incredible. But
that's real cool.
I guess that's just kind of a glimpse into my mind at that time, I guess.
That's real cool. I was looking through your TikTok and I saw a couple videos that included weights and your boy, one of your boys.
Oh, yeah.
So that's cool.
Oh, yeah.
Seems like you're a good dad.
Yeah, I love those guys very much. I got 2 little dudes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Joshua, the other question I had regarding the force, fraud, or coercion, I just wanted to know from your personal account if you ever experienced force, fraud, or coercion while you were in the industry.
Right. I think for me personally, when it comes to just interaction between people on an intimate level, I had the opportunity of being on sets where there were very large sets. There were very large productions with multiple cameras, someone working the sound, someone, a lighting guy. There's a few like personal assistants on set and things like that. So while I always had the opportunity to be on large sets, which just the amount of people on set created accountability, I guess. So I never experienced anything like off-putting or strange in that regard. But when it comes to a financial standpoint, I think that it's really eye-opening for a lot of people to know what I'm about to say. So a question that I get so much is, so you're so passionate about what, this and that, and you advocate against pornography. Why don't you take down the videos that you currently have on the internet? And do you still profit from said videos on the internet? Because it's a legitimate question. Because if you think about, Leonardo DiCaprio still making bank off, the Titanic.
Right.
There's in any regard, probably in most genres of film, music, and acting, and just in any regard of you create or partake in something, and said thing makes money, you generally make a residual payment off that. In the adult film industry, every time you work, you do three things. You show up, you provide two forms of identification, that is photo scanned and copied, then you sign it, and then you fill out a contract. And that legal contract, it says this: I am signing away all rights to video, sound, and photos. I'm signing away all rights to them, and I'm going to be compensated a day rate. So you get X amount of dollars that day, and you sign away all rights to video, sound. I think my air just came on. Is that loud?
It is kind of loud, but it's okay.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
But you sign away all video, all audio, all photos. And here's the issue with that. So I did 1,000 different movies throughout my life in the adult industry, and a company will sell video to another company to make a compilation video, and then they'll sell these photos to a sex shop to put on stuff to advertise for you. So all of a sudden, those 1,000 videos turned into 10,000 videos, and then now your face is on a sex toy and a advertisement, and then it's online on these dating profiles, and you're like, how did this happen? And you signed away rights to those photos, and you're attached to an identity that doesn't exist, because like the stage name that I used wasn't a real person. So, and then when it comes to residuals, that the residuals don't exist. So, like, sure, I made $1 million over 5 years, in the industry, but like, there's probably $1 million made off of 100, 200 different movies I made. So, your content is all over the place forever, and you don't get a cent when it comes to residuals. So there's so much content out there, and it's owned by so many people. It would take me, like, just to find out who was the proprietor, like, of those images and videos and audio would take forever. And residuals just aren't a thing. So, and like, maybe the industry has changed, maybe there's different agreements with different people, but for the most part, like, it's just not a thing. So, and like, for me, like, I was getting paid top dollar. There's guys and girls, guys will get paid like $200 to do whatever, or girls will get paid like $500-600 to do whatever, and then they take that video the pictures and stuff, and they sell it to 4 different companies, like, individually. And so it's just a really unfortunate thing.
Right. During our presentations and in some of our content, we talk about how pornography is a supernormal stimulus. And I was just wondering, from your experience in the porn industry, would you agree that pornography is a supernormal stimulus, and if so, why?
From a consumer standpoint?
Yeah, or from a performer standpoint. I'm not sure.
I would say yes, just because it's, I think this company is very appropriately named because it is a drug, and it does, that dopamine hit that you get from consuming that content is unlike a lot of things, because you are taking something that your body was meant to experience, and then you're falsifying it. It's almost like it's like if you ate a sheet of paper that tasted like fried chicken. It's like what's going on in my mind, like what's happening. I'm experiencing this sensation, but it's not really happening. And I think that because it's on an intimate level, and it's something that people desire to be wanted, people desire to be loved, people and then sometimes that sex is their idea of being loved or experiencing love. And if that they can get that dopamine hit from that, so absolutely yes.
Thanks for sharing your perspective on that. I'm jumping back a little bit to when you were talking about the isolation, how you felt like you needed to be alone to kind of recharge your batteries in a sense. Is that correct?
Yeah, and it's well, it's funny because that's behavior of an introverted person, and I'm not. I'm incredibly extroverted. That's like in the 99th percentile. Just the companies that I've worked for, and just the opportunities I've had. I'm very involved in like personality testing and like strength and stuff like that. But extroverted, I gain energy from being around people. But at that point in my life, I think it was more so I felt ashamed, so I hid. I didn't feel like I could add value, and I couldn't be hurt if I was alone. So I think like that was why I isolated myself, because I believed the lie that I was not valuable. So I was in a safe place if I could control everything.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's interesting that you're an extrovert, but you were leaning towards some introvert tendencies. That's an interesting thing for me to learn. So.
Yeah, I think it's it's the power of the mind, in that if you believe a lie, it will become true to you. If I believe that I am a failure, it's going to be impossible for me to succeed. If I wake up every morning and say, today is going to suck, I'm probably not going to have a good day.
Right.
So every day I woke up and I was like, I better hide from the world because I'm not of any use. And that little voice grew inside my head, and it got louder and louder and louder and louder. And I think a major catalyst for that was I tried to date people in the industry, and just thinking about I don't even know if like someone else could comprehend this, but because the males that work in that industry with consistency, it's a pool of about 20 people. And so because of that, you knew all the guys. And trying to date someone in the industry all of a sudden, your significant other was working, quote unquote, working with someone that was a buddy of yours, and that trying to make that normal was incredibly detrimental to my mind, to me emotionally. And then I was dating someone for a short period of time that really was into that. Like, she wanted to like talk about her day, and like really like it was arousing to her to have to tell me things like that. And I believed the lie that I could make myself like that, and like that was very, very unhealthy. And that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. And just like that relationship led me into a place that was so dark that like I was pretty isolated before, but like really I was the guy, like I just didn't return text messages, and I said I would go out, but I didn't. I just like to like hang out at home on the weekends, but I would still like do stuff with people during the week.
Yeah.
I pretty much didn't leave my apartment. Like, I think the last year I was in the industry, I spent like 14 grand on takeout, because literally I just would just go pick up food and bring it home, because I didn't even want to like be around people in any way. I didn't want to like, people would invite me out to dinner and do stuff, and I just like, I don't even want to like go to the grocery store. I just want to go and pick up food and go home.
I was just wondering if you ever experienced, and I just want to acknowledge that this is a sensitive question, and you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but I was just wondering if you ever experienced suicide ideation through that process.
Yeah. So I got to a point where, like, at that time, like, I wasn't very like religious or spiritual at all, but I was just like, I can't see my life going anywhere. And I felt trapped by my actions, like almost like, because I have done so much porn, I had this scarlet letter, and I told myself the lie that it would always stop me from doing anything else. So I believed it was the only thing I could do. So I started saying yes to like stuff that I'd said no to before. Like, in that, like, I didn't care. I didn't care what I was doing as far as like in that industry. I would just like, if the dollar amount was right, I would just say yes to it. And I just stopped having like any value for myself, and I just wanted to make as much money as possible. And like, for some reason, like, that kind of masked the pain. But I say I wasn't very like religious or spiritual or whatever, just because like I was asking like I was just, just asking out into thin air, just like, can I just please die? Like, I don't think I genuinely thought about taking my life, but I definitely didn't want to live. And like, I was to that point where like, I can't see myself doing anything but this. I don't think I could do anything but this. Like, what could I do? What kind of value could I have? Like, no one will ever love me. No one could ever like want to be with me. Why would I believe that I could do anything else? I know I'm gonna eventually get too old to do this, and then what? Then what am I supposed to do? And I just like saw like the impossibility of a future before my eyes, and just felt hopeless.
I love seeing the contrast from some of those low moments to where you're at today.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool, pretty inspiring.
Yeah.
So thanks for sharing those. I kind of wanted to jump into kind of how does it feel? What are some of the benefits that you've experienced since leaving? But I first want to hear how you ended up leaving. How did that process occur?
It was so bizarre, actually. I remember the day so clearly. So I had worked the day before, and I was going to the bank to deposit a check, and I lived in this little like collection of townhomes, and it was in a part of town where like everything was in walking distance. And I walked across the street to the bank. And just to give you a little bit of backstory, like at this time, I'd been in the industry for 5 years, and I had isolated myself to the point where I stopped answering my mom's phone calls. I stopped returning my friends' text messages. I unfriended, or they unfriended me on social media, because I just felt like I was such an embarrassment to those people. So I had gone maybe a year without hearing my real name, because I'd isolated myself to the point where I was only interacting with people on set. And I went to the bank, and I deposited the check, and swiped the card, deposited the money, got the receipt, and I was walking away, and then the teller said, "Excuse me, Joshua, is there something I can do to help you?" And I just looked at her, and she was like, "Joshua, is there anything I can do for you?" And I just felt chills all over my body. I just because that was the first time I'd heard my name in almost a year. And I just kind of slowly walked away, because it didn't make sense. The interaction didn't make sense, because I already had the receipt. If what she was saying happened in the beginning of our conversation, it would have made sense, but it just didn't make sense. And I walked away, and I have chill bumps on my arm thinking about it now. And then I just kind of meandered across the street, and I lived in Sherman Oaks at the time, and I lived on Sepulveda Boulevard, which is a very, very busy street. It kind of leads into Hollywood, and I'm surprised I didn't get hit by a car, because I was just so, I don't know, I was perplexed. And I walked in, and used my little code to get into the building, and then I went up the elevator to my place, and I walked in, and I took my watch off, and I set the watch down, and I was kind of looking at my watch, and I was just thinking about I don't know, I had this my watch was kind of my prized possession. I had this Breitling by Bentley. It was a $24,000 watch. And I just I was just looking at it, and I was I was just confused why I had it. And then I looked in the mirror, and I didn't recognize the person that I saw. And there was just something about hearing my name that just put chills down my spine. And all of a sudden I felt conviction for the first time. I felt like I knew the life I was living wasn't right. It wasn't good for me. It was wrong. I felt guilty. And this is always tough for me to talk about, but I immediately saw my mom's face, and I thought about the person who sacrificed so much for me, and thought about how she finally met someone that took care of her, because she was 16 when she had me. She struggled to provide for me. She gets married, and the person is a heroin addict and beats her and abuses her. And then she ends up with another kid. Now she has me and my brother, and she still figures out a way to just give me the world. And she fights and fights and fights. And then while I'm in California, she meets a guy, and he treats her like she deserves to be treated and makes her feel loved. And out of the blue, his appendix ruptures and he dies. And she's there hurting and crying and broken. And I don't even pick up the phone and answer it because I don't think that she wants to talk to me. I was so self-absorbed by my own stuff that I wasn't there for my mom. And I felt the weight of that in that moment, and it absolutely crushed me. And I saw myself in a different way. And I just like, I can't do this anymore. So I picked up the phone and I called my agent first, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm not, I was supposed to work, I think like the next day or the day after that. And I was like, I'm not going to be there. And he's like, are you sick? Like, what's going on? I'm like, no, I quit. He's like, well, you can't quit. You're in a contract. You're this and that. And I was like, I don't care what it costs. I quit. It's like, send me, whatever you need to send me. Let me know what I need to pay. I don't care what it costs. Like, I don't even care. Just make it happen. I was like, call all of my sponsorships, cancel everything. I'm done. And that cost me like $50,000. But I in that moment I quit, and I started calling everyone I knew, and I was like, I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here. And I kept calling until I could find someone to sublease my apartment. And I was so desperate to leave, like that day or the next day, that I was like, you can have everything in here. I mean, my place was so nice because as a recluse, like everything I had was the best of the best. So it was just like, here, you can have everything in my apartment. You don't have to pay me anything. Just promise me you'll pay the rent. And just like, I'll leave the keys here. The door's open. And I packed up my clothes and I took a cab to the airport, to LAX. And then I flew to Charlotte, and my mom picked me up.
Wow. Josh, well, I appreciate you sharing that experience with us. It was inspiring and special to listen to that. So, oh man, it's quite the experience.
Yeah.
How was it seeing your mom for the first time in a while?
It was really emotional. Like, I was like, as silly as it was like I was afraid to hug her because I'm someone today that's like, well, kind of, I've always been this way. I'm like, I wear my emotions on my sleeve. Like, you're never confused about how I feel, about, how I feel or how I feel about you. And I was afraid to hug her because, I don't know. I just remember being afraid to hug her. Like, I wanted to hug her so bad, but I was afraid because, like, I didn't know how she was going to receive me, because I was so sure, even though I called her and I was like, can you please pick me up? She was like, absolutely, tell me what time, I'll be there. And just like, she like literally like ran to me and like grabbed me and hugged me, and we both cried and cried and cried. And the most perplexing thing about how my mom received me, like, she was everything that I needed, and she responded exactly how I needed her to, because she didn't ask me a lot of questions because she didn't care. She didn't care why I was home. She didn't care why I quit. She didn't care. She was just glad that I was there.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So, have you? What am I trying to say here? What are some positive things that you've experienced since leaving?
So, I think an important aspect of just removing yourself from a toxic environment or a toxic behavior is that when you quit doing something, the addiction or the detriment is still there. So just because you stop doing something doesn't mean that it's going to go away. Like, the feeling is going to go away. I say that because there was a 2-year period that I was not in the industry or being exposed to doing it in any way, that I felt honestly like some days worse, because I wasn't making, 250K for doing little to nothing. I wasn't signing autographs and taking pictures with people. I wasn't being paid to take, to show up places. Like, that wasn't happening anymore, but I still had all that guilt. And I spent about 2 years lying to every single person I met. Like, everywhere I tried to get jobs and like do stuff, I just like, I tried to get back into modeling, but I lied about what I had been doing, and like my past resurfaced, and I got fired from my agent. I had opportunities come up that I would audition for or whatever, and then like it would come to the surface that who I was and what I did, because it wasn't like I was a guy who did like a porn movie. Like, I was the biggest, like, in that time, because everything is so delayed, like, because you make this content and then it eventually comes out, and I had made so much content and then it was all coming out. So there was like, it was pretty much impossible to look at any porn website and not see me on it. Pretty much impossible. Like, anything like when Showtime, like Skinamax, like when that was popular, like there's over sexualized movies and stuff, like I was the star of most of them. So it was really impossible for me to hide, but I tried my best, and I lied, and I tried to cover up what I'd done, and that was really detrimental for me. And after doing that for like 2 years, and just people, like, there was one person that I was working for at a gym. So I started personal training, and I like was willing to do anything. Since I was willing to do anything and I worked hard, I worked myself into a good position at that gym there. Even when they found out I was who I was, they gave me the opportunity to kind of continue to prove myself, and they felt like I had value as a coach. So I continued working there, and over time I started to feel a little bit better, but I still like had this like weight on me. It's like, I can't like tell everybody I meet about this stuff. And then it was like, when is it appropriate? When am I supposed to tell people? How am I supposed to tell someone this? And relationships, like with a girl, just like, it was impossible, because I would just lie, and then it would come to the surface. So it's like, well, I don't want to be with you, like, because you did what you did and you lied to me, or you didn't tell me something that obviously you should have told me.
Right.
And
that's a tough dynamic.
Yeah. So I meet this girl, and we're gonna go for this run, and I'm just like, I'm just so sick of carrying this weight that's like is killing me. It's like I feel like I'm making like all these strides, like, professionally, and like in all, like, everything is going well except like the inside of me, like I'm doing good things, I'm helping people, I'm passionate about helping people, I see myself having a future in helping people, I feel like I'm even good at it, but like, how am I supposed to have like an emotional attachment to someone? How am I supposed to have like a relationship with someone? It just seemed impossible. Like, I would like randomly like hook up with girls or whatever, but like it just made me feel like I had no idea, honestly. Like, I had no idea like how to interact with a girl. Like, no clue. Like, I was like a child. And I was just like, gosh, I'm just so sick of this. And I was going to go for a run with this girl, and I was like, if she never talks to me again, she never talks to me again, but I'm going to tell her everything. And I was like, hey, I got to tell you something. And then I was like, I did like a porn movie, and like I felt myself like, I get like in my head, like give myself a pep talk. It's like don't tell her a little bit, that's still a lie. Tell her the truth. And all of a sudden, like, I just unloaded on her like 5 years, or actually like 20 years of just junk. Just like, let me tell you how terrible I am. And after just spending far too long, telling her way too much, to be honest, about how terrible I was, she's like, well, I understand that you did all those things, but that's not who you are. Like, that's not the person I see standing in front of me.
That's powerful.
Yeah, because all of a sudden she spoke life into me, very much like my basketball coach did a long time ago. Like, she saw me for the person that was standing in front of her, not the actions that I did. And all of a sudden, I wasn't my past. I was this person who could be. And she was saying, she was saying that I have potential. I could do this. And she was like, she articulated like good qualities about me. And it was like almost like she heard what I said about myself, and she refuted it. And her rebuttal was, "Let me actually tell you who you are. Let me actually tell you about the person I see standing in front of me."
That's cool.
And honestly, it changed my life, because all of a sudden I stopped seeing myself as what I did. And I progressed, like over time, I stopped carrying that weight. But I'm glad to say, so that person, we've been married for almost 5 years. She's amazing and awesome.
Nice.
And we have 2 little baby Cetos. We have 2 little dudes that are awesome. They are maniacs, but I love them so, so much. And she makes me so happy. And every single day she reminds me that I'm loved and that I'm valuable. And she made me believe in myself, where when I just thought it was just absolutely impossible to believe in myself. And that just goes to say, like, there's a power in encouraging people that you never know. You never know what one act of kindness is going to do to change someone's day. And the way that she responded to me changed the trajectory of my life. So that's a pretty awesome thing that's happened to me.
That is really cool. Thanks for sharing. One question I got to ask you.
Yeah.
Would you say that leaving porn has had a positive impact on your sex life?
Absolutely. I mean, I think it, strangely, just because of the lens of my experience, sex is meant to be romantic. It's meant to be an expression of love. And when it's used to make yourself feel better, when it's used to make yourself feel affirmed, when it's used to cover up insecurities, when you abuse it towards, I think it's one of those things where you not only do you objectify other people and hurt other people, you're hurting yourself. I didn't really think much of it because of what I saw and what I knew. It was just like, it made sense. And it made me, like, it wasn't even about the sex. It was like, it made me feel it made me feel accomplished, and it made me feel accepted. It was almost like a notch on my belt. And that was something that I just didn't have a good relationship with sex. So yeah, absolutely.
Can you share with us, when was the last time you experienced true healthy connection and love?
Yeah. Every day with my wife. It's like, ever since she saw me as someone that, because I always saw myself as like, I needed to do something to be accepted, because I never saw myself as someone who was deserving of acceptance. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't think that I had enough value to be held on to, so just her like truly loving me, in that, like, it's really tough because we all have a past. We all have hurts, failures, pains. It can attribute to our character and who we are as a person, but it doesn't have to limit or stop us from becoming something or someone. And I think that if we believe the lie that the thing that I did, or even the thing that I'm doing, is going to prevent me from growing, from prevent me from being better, from prevent me from actually experiencing love, it's just not true. So she spoke truth into me when I felt dead in some degree. And yeah, see, she just she's amazing.
I love that. What advice would you have for if there's someone out there right now who is currently performing in pornography and wants to leave the industry but hasn't had the courage or hasn't had an experience like you had in the bank?
Yeah.
What advice would you give to that person?
So I would just want to affirm that your life matters so much. And you are so gifted in so many ways. And the reason that you are successful is not because of your willingness to have sex on camera. It's because that there is greatness in you, and you're destined for impact in some regard. And you're not doing the thing that you were meant to do. You're actually standing in the way of what you were meant to do. And I believe the lie myself that because I did it for so long that there's nothing else I can do. And it's just not true. It's just not true. So don't believe the lie that you can't stop. And please don't believe the lie that your life is over. Because this is something I want to share to, we can cut this out if you want, but there's something that I want to share to people who are in the industry, and especially people who consume the content. There's been 30 people that I know on a very deep level that were in the industry the same time as me. And they are no longer alive. They took their life, or they overdosed and died, or they put themselves in a situation that cost them their life. And all those people had one thing in common. They believed that they had to stay in the industry because there was nothing else they could do. They believed the lie that their life was summed up in that action. They believed that that's all they could do. So when work started slowing down, when they stopped getting as many phone calls, when they started getting a little bit older, all of a sudden the thing that they believed that gave their life purpose, and the thing that they believed allowed them to feel value, went away. They believed that their life was over. So in some instances they took it. Those videos are still on the internet. Hundreds of thousands of them. So it's very possible, because several of these people are very popular still. Very good chance that if you're consuming pornography, that you're watching one of those actors or actresses. They died because they believed their life didn't matter.
Thanks for sharing that. I think it's cool to look at your low moments that you experienced, and especially the moment at the airport with your mom and feeling like, what am I going to do, because I have no resume except for this.
Yeah.
And then seeing everything that you've accomplished is pretty inspiring. So I think that your words are powerful, but I think your actions and your life is a true true testament to what you can achieve. So thanks for the day in and day out that you put in to be a good example in that way.
Absolutely.
Well, Joshua, we have kind of come to the end of this conversation, but we want to leave you with the opportunity to give us the last word, to have the last word during this conversation. Is there any last thought that you would like to share?
I think that it's just really important to treat people like their life matters. And I think we don't really think about that when we consume pornography, because we're supposed to use things and love people. We're not supposed to use people and love things, but unfortunately that's what happens sometimes. So when you objectify that person on the other side of that screen, whether it's your phone or your laptop, you're communicating not only to them but to yourself that their life doesn't matter. And I watched a documentary recently, and it was I don't remember which one it was, but ultimately it was like the worst like prisons in the world or whatever. And 67% of this prison in South Africa, they were accused of rape, along with other things, but in the 70 percentile were in there for rape. And they interviewed a lot of people, and everyone said the same thing: their life doesn't matter as much as mine. So I felt like I could take it from them. I felt like I deserved that. I felt like I was entitled to that. And I think that's the false narrative that porn displays, that sex is something that you're entitled to, and we don't have to love people. We can use them for what we want. So,
there's been a lot of powerful moments during this conversation, and on a personal level, I want to say thank you for sharing. Thanks for joining us today. But I also want to say thanks for joining us on behalf of our audience, because I know this conversation will impact a lot of people for good. And so thanks, Joshua.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my story.
How can pornography impact you, your loved ones, and the world around you? Discover the answer for yourself in our free 3-part documentary series, Brain, Heart, World. In 3 30-minute episodes, this docuseries dives into how pornography impacts individuals, relationships, and society. With witty narration and colorful animation, this age-appropriate series shines a hopeful light on this heavy topic. In each episode, you'll hear from experts who share research on porn's harms, as well as true stories from people who have been impacted personally by pornography. Stream the full series for free, or purchase an affordable screening license at brainheartworld.org.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Consider Before Consuming. Consider Before Consuming is brought to you by Fight the New Drug. Fight the New Drug is a non-religious and non-legislative organization that exists to provide individuals the opportunity to make an informed decision regarding pornography by raising awareness on its harmful effects using only science, facts, and personal accounts. If you want to learn more about today's guest and the conversation we had, you can check out the links included with this episode. Again, big thanks to you for listening to this conversation. As you go about your day, we invite you to increase your self-awareness, look both ways, check your blind spots, and consider before consuming.